Primal Chaos.
Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel, and I'm coming at you today, not with music, but with another trailer. This one's for a TV series. Anne Rice's interview with the vampire. I love that they tagged it with Anne Rice's, because I'm wondering if this is probably more in line with her vision of what the books were. It seems like they wouldn't throw that in there. Everyone knows Anne Rice wrote Interview with the Vampire, so it's strange they'd put in there. I seem to remember historically she wasn't super stoked with the casting, particularly of Tom Cruise and things. And I think, am I crazy? Did she step away from the production of the original film because it was too different or something? I may be conflating memories. Either way, what am I hoping to see? Well, I want to see obviously a far more updated reboot, modern reboot thing where the aesthetic is much richer, more realistic for the time frame. And I just want them to nail the tone. Like the most important part of the story of Interview with the Vampire is the relationship, this codependent, complex relationship between Louis and Lestat, and how that sort of echoes through time. Obviously Claudia, and how she relates to the whole story, and how like the decision that they make tortures her for the rest of her eternity. So, yeah, let's see what happens. I just want to jump right in.
I was being hunted.
Help me, please. He's in my head, Father.
The year was 1910. New Orleans. You could say I managed and operated a diversified portfolio of enterprises.
Dear God, I hope you got the letter, and I pray you can make it better.
Right, so that's Louis. And that's gonna be Lestat.
And I was completely unaware it was happening.
I've been watching you for some time now, Louis.
Very cool.
I can swap this life of shame. Swap it out for a dark gift. You just have to ask me for it.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I lay down with the devil, and I can't think nothing anymore. Lord, help me, I am weak, I want to die.
So much drama. I love it.
You don't fear me, Louis. You fear yourself.
Great piece of audio too, man. Wow.
I ask the questions, you answer the questions. Anything that can't be verified, I send to my
Is that Paul
research.
Reiser? He's in everything.
So,
is it him?
how long have you been dead?
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, what are my thoughts? My initial thoughts. First of all, I love that just from the trailer, we can't have any sense of what the show's truly going to be like, but based on this trailer edit, it seems like they're capturing the two most important things, and that is the relationship and the romance, and it is a romance between Lestat and Louis, and their codependent sort of devastating effect they have on each other, particularly Lestat has on Louis. And I mean, I'm assuming Claudia's story is going to be interesting as well. But it's just they show there's a little bit of a touch of magic of the power of the vampire when they had that frozen scene, the freeze frame sort of pan, and then also the veracity of their particularly Lestat's appetite for destruction, essentially. Like that shot of what came around the pews, and he's sort of just covered in blood and just feeding. Because the great thing about these stories is they really do romanticize the vampirism, but they show you the dark animalistic side as well. And it seems like this trailer has really demonstrated that tone really well. Now, obviously, there's been some interesting casting choices. My first impression of that is, okay, so Louis is now a person of color, which, you know, most people's first instinct might be, oh, they're just, you know, inclusivity is just happening everywhere now, whatever. My first instinct is it actually tracks a little bit more realistically with the time frame and the location of Louisiana in that time period. Now, I mean, from what I know historically, I'm not a historian, but it just seems that is actually a really nice fit, to be perfectly honest. But also, they've changed his profession. From memory, Louis used to be a plantation owner. And I'm looking at it going, person of color, plantation owner. I know history is kind of a little blurry on that, but it would seem odd for him to be a person of color and own plantations that probably employed slaves, at least to the point of putting on a TV show where everyone's going to, like, you know, who doesn't know better might think that doesn't track, right? That seems unrealistic. In the case of this, it seems like he said something about owning a bunch of business ventures, which is a shady way of saying probably things like brothels, gambling dens, maybe opium dens, that sort of thing, like casino sort of style stuff. Which is, you know, that kind of tracks. That sort of fits better than Louis being a black plantation owner, in a manner of speaking. So that kind of all tracks to me. Also, they opted, because Claudia obviously is no relation to those two. From memory, they find her, or Louis finds her somewhere next to her dead mother, I believe, ready to die. So she's kind of an adopted child figure, if that makes sense. And so it would make sense that a person that would attract his attention in that regard would also be a person of color as well. So that makes sense, right? I understand that casting as well. I'm here for that. I think it all kind of tracks relatively well. Look, at the end of the day, the story isn't about these two specific individuals. It doesn't matter who's playing Louis or Lestat or Claudia. What really matters is that their story is told with this complex, rich layer of just the devastating effect they have on one another, their relationship, and how their decisions sort of create a living hell essentially for Claudia. I do struggle with the concept of it appears they've aged her up, and I know that in the original movie, Kirsten Dunst is like her interpretation of the character or her representation was that they made her a little older. In the book, she's supposed to be basically 5 or 6 years old, I believe. Again, I haven't read these in years, so correct me if I'm wrong. But the whole concept of her story arc, the way I remember it, is that originally, it was basically their cute little adopted doll, right? That they, Lestat would lavish her with gifts and dresses and the finest of everything, like he was playing with a toy. But eventually what happens when you're immortal is that you get older and older and older. And in Claudia's case, being that she wasn't an adult when she was changed, the concept of being an adult woman trapped in the body of a child eventually drives her crazy. Whereas if you have an actress who, she looked like she was maybe 14 or 15. I know 30-year-old women who could probably pass for 14 or 15. That's not that uncommon. Like, she'd still be able to exist in the world and just appear younger, so that to me is a little bit challenging. There might have been other reasons for, in the present zeitgeist, more palatability of having, not such a young actress. Maybe it's easier to work with actors who are a little bit older, just specifically for like union guideline rules and things like that. There might be things that she has to do in the story that they wouldn't want a child actress to do. I have no idea at this time. Like, that's the kind of thing that's going to present itself later on. But the tone was really good. It looks beautiful. It seems like, if anything, it was kind of melodramatic from Louis' perspective. Like, he was incredibly emotionally overwhelmed for a lot of the scenes that he was acting in, right? Like, I mean, there was plenty of him walking and stuff, but I mean the parts where his father, you know, whatever, he's in my head. It seems melodramatic at this point, like the choices that the actor is making. Is it Grey Worm from Game of Thrones? I'm not sure of the actor's name. It just seems like overly melodramatic, but again, it sort of fits because you got to understand this is a time of deep superstition and social upheaval and cultural sort of like hodgepodge melange of just cultures coming from all around the world, from a lot of French cultural influence and things like that. And so, you know, when something like this, something supernatural happens to somebody like that, who probably grew up on the Bible and hell, fire and brimstone, it would be the most intense, hyper devastating experience of that person's life, right? Like, you know, he would be, if you thought evil was penetrating your being, you know, psychologically or otherwise, that sounded dirtier than I expected. But if that was the case, then you would be banging down the preacher's door and screaming at the top of your lungs with tears streaming down your face, because, you know, there's no rational explanation. Nowadays, we'd write something like that off as, I have psychological problems, and here, have some lithium or something, you know. Back then, it was the supernatural. It was the devils inside you, and it was the demons that were coming for you, and, you know, and so I can totally see that kind of level of emotional response. So far, it's all ticks for me. Aside from maybe Claudia, her age. Other than that, 2 thumbs up from this guy. I can't wait to check it out. Will it be television for me? I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'll definitely give it a chance because the trailer seems pretty spectacular. Anyway, that's all I got, guys. Thanks again. I have been Primal Chaos. Check out some of my music reactions as well. I'll be doing more of these when something tickles my fancy. And thanks again. Catch you on the next one.